Commander Elena Reyes' knuckles whitened as she gripped the railing on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station. Blood pounded in her ears while she watched the diplomatic vessels from the 5 great galactic empires break formation and align for departure. The Silvery ambassador had spat at her feet not 30 minutes ago. Now his crystalline ship gleamed mockingly as it prepared to abandon humanity to its fate. "They're really leaving," whispered Lieutenant Santos beside her. "All of them." The militant Kisrath fortress vessels with their planet-cracking weapons, the enigmatic Meyer Collective's living ships that seemed to breathe in the void, the sleek corporate Tellurian armada that had sold Earth its first FTL drives at extortionate rates, and most shocking of all, the ancient Vex Dominion's world eaters who had once promised protection to all sentient life worthy of continuation. 3 days earlier, during a routine deep space scan, Elena's own sister, Dr. Sophia Reyes, had detected the signal from the void between galaxies, a signal that began as mathematical sequence and evolved into a horrifying countdown. The harvesters were coming, biomechanical entities that had culled advanced civilizations across the universe for eons. Sophia hadn't slept since, desperately trying to decode more of the transmission while the politicians begged for help. "Commander," Santa's voice pulled Elena back to the present. "The Vex carrier is powering up its reality drive." Elena watched as reality itself seemed to fold around the massive world eater before it vanished from normal space. The Silvery ships followed, their crystalline hulls refracting starlight in prismatic patterns before they too disappeared into FTL. One by one, the Empire's vessels abandoned Earth's orbit until only the Tellurian diplomatic corvette remained. "At least they're saying goodbye," Elena muttered bitterly. The Tellurian ship hovered longer than the others, its elegant curves belying the ruthless calculus of its masters. Then it too aligned for departure, its engines flaring brilliant blue against the void. By Galactic Covenant, Article 17, the 5 empires were bound to unite their forces to defend all inhabited worlds. Instead, they convened an emergency session of the Conclave and voted unanimously to sacrifice the outer systems, including Earth and its colonies, to buy time for their core worlds. As the last Tellurian ship twisted away into hyperspace, Admiral Chen stepped onto the deck. His face was ashen, his uniform disheveled from 3 days of non-stop diplomacy. "They said no," Elena stated. "Not a question." Chen handed her a data crystal, their final message, delivered by a Tellurian diplomatic aide who couldn't even look me in the eye. Elena slammed the crystal into a reader. A holographic figure appeared, the Tellurian High Executor, speaking for the combined conclave. "We regret to inform you that after careful resource allocation analysis, your species is deemed too primitive to warrant the expenditure required for your defense. Earth and all territories of the Sol system now fall outside the designated defensive perimeter. You have 11 standard months before harvester arrival. We suggest you make peace with your end." Elena crushed the crystal in her palm, ignoring the blood that welled from her clenched fist. "Get me Earth Defense Command." "What are you planning, Commander?" Chen asked, something like hope flickering in his exhausted eyes. "The Empires have made their choice," Elena said, turning from the viewport where the last traces of the Tellurian drive flare were fading. "Now we make ours. Find me every primitive species they've abandoned, every world they've written off, every civilization not worth their precious resources. You want to build an alliance." Chen's disbelief was palpable. "With what? We barely have interstellar capability. The other abandoned species are even less advanced." Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. "Then we'd better start innovating, Admiral. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not planning to die on the Empire's schedule." Santos straightened at her console. "Commander, we're receiving transmissions from 17 colony worlds. They've all heard the news." "Good," Elena said, her voice hardening with resolve. "Tell them we're not giving up. Tell them humanity is taking up the fight, with or without the Empires. and anyone who wants to survive had better join us. They call this a diplomatic vessel. Dr. Ebioy Jackson ducked as sparks showered from the ceiling of the UES Defiant. The ship shuddered violently, its overtaxed engines struggling with their fourth consecutive faster-than-light jump. They call it what we could afford. Alina shot back, strapping herself into the captain's chair as emergency klaxons blared. And right now, it's all that stands between 17 species and extinction. The United Earth Defense Council had given her 30 days and one refurbished cargo ship to accomplish the impossible. Build an alliance from the scraps the empires had discarded. 30 days to convince proud, frightened alien species that humans, barely space-capable by galactic standards, could lead them against the harvesters. Dropping out of FTL in 30 seconds, Lieutenant Santos announced, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. Quilera Prime dead ahead. The view screen showed a swirling emerald planet, a humid jungle world where the local species existed as a partial hive mind. Their previous stop at the frozen moon of the warrior poet Ventari had nearly ended in bloodshed when the suspicious locals detected their unscheduled arrival. Only Jackson's flawless recitation of their sacred war verse had prevented a diplomatic disaster. The Defiant lurched as it decelerated, ancient inertial dampeners whining in protest. "Commander, receiving transmission from the surface," Santos reported. "They're ordering us to leave immediately or be destroyed. They say the empires have already visited and informed them survival is impossible." Alina clenched her jaw. "Put me through." On screen appeared a Kulari elder, its compound eyes reflecting the ship in faceted repetition. "Human vessel, we have made our peace. Do not bring false hope." "I bring neither peace nor false hope," Alina countered, stepping closer to the view screen. "I bring war plans. The Tellurians lie to you. The Silvari betrayed your ancestors' treaties. The Khazrath violated their sworn oaths to protect developing worlds." The Kulari's antennae twitched. "These things are known to us. What is your point, human?" My point is that I'm done begging empires for salvation. The Ventari have already pledged their crystal fleets. The aquatic Neph have offered their deep ocean fabrication facilities. The Jixari have promised their stealth technology." She pulled up a star chart showing the abandoned territories. "They think we're primitive because we lack their technology. They've forgotten what it means to fight for survival. When the harvesters come, the empires will follow their million-year-old defense protocols. We'll do what primitive species do best: adapt, improvise, and surprise the hell out of everyone." For the first time, the Quilari showed interest. An alliance of the abandoned. It has never been attempted. Alina smiled grimly. "That's because no one's ever been desperate enough to try. I need your hive mind coordination capabilities. In return, I promise you this: if we die on our feet, fighting together. But if we win, the Quilari finished, its voice resonating with sudden understanding, "the empires will never call us primitive again." 12 hours later, Alina stood in the grand communication chamber of the Kulari hive mind nexus. Representatives from 4 other species had gathered, holographic projections from the Ventari crystal ships, the aquatic Neph in floating water bubbles, the insectoid Jixari, and the enigmatic shadow beings of Proxima Dusk. "The Quilari have agreed to join our coalition," Alina announced. "They'll provide neural link technology to coordinate our forces." "A coalition of the desperate," chittered the Jixari representative skeptically. "Led by the youngest, most primitive species of all." "Yes," Alina acknowledged. "We are young. We're reckless. We haven't learned proper galactic etiquette. But we also haven't learned to lie down and die when the odds seem impossible." She strode to the center of the chamber. "The empires have spent millennia perfecting their defensive doctrines. The harvesters have spent eons refining their harvesting techniques. Neither has faced what we're building: a force that fights not for glory or resources or ancient oaths, but purely to survive." The Ventari war poet raised his crystalline appendage. "We pledge our crystal ships to your command. Human who refuses death. Our warriors will follow where you lead. One by one, the others joined. The Neph, the Jixari, and finally, the shadow beings of Proxima Dusk, who rarely allied with any species. As they departed the chamber, Dr. Jackson fell into step beside Elena. That was impressive, Commander. 8 species in 10 days. Not enough, Elena replied, studying the latest intelligence reports. We need every abandoned world fighting together, or we don't stand a chance. The empires won't like this, Jackson warned. Elena's smile was cold. Good. I'd hate to die without pissing them off first. This is treason against the Galactic Conclave, hissed Kittel, the Ventari representative, his crystalline exoskeleton glittering with agitation. Even discussing harvester technology violates Treaty Article 94. Dr. Sanjay Mehta didn't look up from the holographic fragments floating above his laboratory table. With respect, Ambassador, the Conclave abandoned us to die. I'd say that nullifies our treaty obligations. The Coalition's War Council had convened in an underground facility beneath the Olympus Mons colony on Mars. Representatives from 17 species watched uneasily as Mehta manipulated fragments of what appeared to be biomechanical debris. Where did you get these? Demanded a Coolari scientist, compound eyes widening. Black market, Elena admitted. The empires don't know that we've been collecting harvester fragments for decades. While they were restricting knowledge, we were bartering with smugglers, scavengers, and exiles. Mehta highlighted a pulsing node within the fragment. This is why the empires fear harvester research. They're not just machines. They're networked consciousness, and networked systems have vulnerabilities. The revelation sent a ripple through the chamber. Elena stepped forward. We have intelligence suggesting that centuries ago, a race called the Proxima managed to destroy a harvester vessel before being wiped out. The empires erased nearly all records of how they did it. Nearly all, emphasized Maya Rodriguez, captain of the stealth vessel Shadow Dancer. Her olive skin was offset by eyes engineered for enhanced night vision, a hallmark of someone born in the low-light mining colonies of Ceres. But the Silvari are obsessive archivists. They never destroy knowledge. They just bury it. On their restricted archive world Mnemosyne, Elena's announcement sent the chamber into chaos. I'm authorizing a covert mission to Mnemosyne. Captain Rodriguez will lead a volunteer team to infiltrate the archives and find the Proxima weapon specifications. This is madness. Kull protested. The Silvari defenses will annihilate your ship before you reach orbit. Maya grinned recklessly. That's why we're bringing Jixari stealth specialists and Neph deep current navigators. The Shadow Dancer isn't the fastest or most powerful ship, but with their help, it'll be the ghost the Silvari never see coming. 3 weeks later, Elena paced the command center, sleep-deprived and anxious. The Shadow Dancer was 12 hours overdue. Then, the burst transmission cut through the static. Fragmented, corrupted, but unmistakably Maya's voice. Ambushed at extraction point. Silvari knew we were. Half the crew lost. Ship breaking apart. Sending data packets now. The transmission cut to Mehta's laboratory as data streamed onto his screens. His eyes widened. My God. The Proxima created a quantum entanglement disruptor. It severs the harvester's hive-mind connection. They're not invincible. They're just networks. Complex, ancient networks. A final transmission came through from the Shadow Dancer. Elena, listen. Maya's voice was punctuated by explosions. The archives showed more. The empires didn't abandon us just because they thought we'd lose. They abandoned us because they're afraid of us. Afraid of what we might become if we... The transmission cut to static. Elena stood frozen as the implications sank in. Admiral Chen laid a hand on her shoulder. Maya and her crew bought this information with their lives. What do you want to do? Build the weapon, Elena said, her voice steady despite the grief etched on her face. And prepare a message for the empires. Let them know that we found what they tried to hide. Is that wise? Dr. Jackson asked. The Silveri will realize what we've done." "Good," Elena replied. "The empires have been fighting the harvesters the same way for millennia. Contained, predictable, manageable losses. They don't just think we're too primitive to save. They fear we're too unpredictable to control," finished Dr. Jackson. "And they'd rather sacrifice us than risk what we might discover." Elena looked around at the representatives of 17 primitive species. "Then let's prove them right to fear us. Let's build this weapon and show them what desperate innovation looks like." As the council dispersed to begin work on the quantum disruptor, Elena paused by the memorial wall where the names of the Shadow Dancer's crew were already being inscribed. "We'll make it count, Maya," she whispered. "I promise." They're not slowing down. The holographic display in the Titan Command Center showed the Harvester fleet's advance, a crimson tide crawling inexorably toward Coalition space. 5 months had passed since the Shadow Dancer mission. 6 months remained before they reached Earth. "Grislack colony just went dark," reported Admiral Chen, marking another system lost. 18 million souls. The harvesters didn't even decelerate, just harvested everything in their path, and continued. Elena studied the tactical display, exhaustion etched into her face. She hadn't slept more than 3 hours at a stretch since taking command of the Coalition fleet. "Show me our defensive positions." The map expanded, revealing an intricate web of preparations scattered across 50 star systems. Each glowing point represented a desperate gamble against extinction. In the oceanic depths of Nephteris, massive fabrication centers operated day and night. Transformed from peaceful undersea cities into war factories, they produced thousands of autonomous drone ships designed by human engineers, but built with Neph organic technology. Living vessels that could adapt to damage in real time. "Production is 43% ahead of projections," reported the Neph representative, his translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "But we've had 3 more pressure dome collapses from the accelerated schedule." He didn't mention the thousands of Neph workers who had died in those collapses. On the view screen, the Venturi Mining Collective showed footage of their most audacious project. Once peaceful miners, they now used their world-shaping technology to reconfigure entire moons into massive gravitational traps. Celestial bodies rigged to collapse into artificial singularities when triggered. "We sacrificed the sacred moon of Cathalis yesterday," reported Keetle, voice heavy with grief. "The test was successful. When the trap is sprung, the gravitational shear will destroy everything within half an AU." Meanwhile, Earth had transformed. Its orbital shipyards operated at 300% capacity, safety protocols abandoned. The quantum entanglement disruptors, codenamed DER, were being mass-produced and fitted to everything from battleships to retrofitted cargo vessels. 16 test pilots had already died from neural feedback during testing. "Every coalition world is preparing," Chen summarized. "Evacuations to hardened deep space shelters are at 60% completion. The Jixari stealth fleet is positioned for early warning. The memory keepers have begun recording our histories to preserve them if we fall." Elena nodded, then noticed activity at a monitoring station. "What's happening?" A young lieutenant looked up, face pale. "Commander, long-range sensors are picking up acceleration from the Harvester fleet. They've changed course. They're moving faster than predicted, and they're heading directly toward Proxima Centauri. That's 8 weeks ahead of projection," Chen muttered. "Why would they?" "Because they know," Elena realized, her blood running cold. "Somehow they know we're building the quantum disruptors. They're coming for us first." She addressed the command staff, representatives of 17 species united by abandonment and desperation. "The empires think we'll break and run. They expect us to follow their defensive doctrines, consolidate forces, protect core worlds, sacrifice outer colonies methodically." She expanded the tactical display. "So we'll do what they'd never expect. We'll attack first." Shocked murmurs filled the room. "Split our forces," Elena continued, eyes blazing with fevered intensity. Asymmetric response across all vectors. The Ventari gravity traps. The Nef swarm ships. The Quillary-linked fighter wings. The Wogisha-Sparrow-equipped frigates. We hit them from 17 directions simultaneously. If they want humanity first, let's show them why that was their final mistake. A Quillary strategist raised a limb in objection. Commander, dividing our forces contradicts every established defensive protocol. Exactly, Alina replied. The Harvesters have encountered the Empire's strategies for millennia. They've never faced a coalition with nothing to lose. As the coalition commanders hurried to implement the strategy, the long-range sensors picked up a new signal. Proxima Centauri II, humanity's first extrasolar colony, had just gone silent. Elena stared at the darkened dot on the map, her jaw set in grim determination. Make them pay, she whispered. For every world they take, make them pay. Lieutenant Aisha Sharma's neural link implants burned like fire against her skull as the Quillary hive connection flared to life. She gasped, momentarily overwhelmed as her consciousness expanded to encompass the 37 other pilots in her squadron. Whisper Squadron, maintain neural cohesion, she commanded, her voice echoing strangely in her own mind. Harvester vessels entering Trappist gravity well in 90 seconds. The Trappist-4 system had once been a thriving mining colony. Now it was bait. Alina's desperate strategy had committed 1/3 of coalition forces to this engagement. If they failed here, humanity's first extrasolar colony would be their last. All units, maintain positions. Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the fleet-wide channel. Remember your training. Remember Proxima. The silence that followed was heavy with grief. The refugees from Proxima had brought horrifying accounts of the Harvester's efficiency, biomechanical tendrils that burrowed into a planet's crust, extracting resources and technology, while processing organic matter into fuel. None had seen the actual Harvester ships up close, none who had ever lived to tell. Until today. Contact. Called a Jiksari Scout. 9 Harvester capital ships entering outer system. Configuration unknown. They appear to be segmented, like massive centipedes. Aisha felt her squadron's collective fear spike through the neural link. She pushed back with calm determination. Steady, Whisper Squadron. Remember the simulations. Aboard the command vessel Defiant, Alina watched the Harvester ships enter the gravity well of Trappist's outer gas giant. They moved with eerie precision, their massive hulls reflecting no light, absorbing it instead, like wounds in the fabric of space. Now, she ordered. Deep within the system's moons, Ventari gravity weapons powered up, massive singularity generators that had required sacrificing 3 of their sacred world crystals to build. Space-time warped around the lead Harvester vessels, stretching and contorting as artificial gravitational shear forces tore at their hulls. Gravity weapons at full power, reported Kittal. Spatial distortion at 87% of theoretical maximum. The Harvester ships slowed but didn't stop. Their segmented bodies flexed and adjusted, compensating for the gravitational anomalies. They're adapting, Chen warned. Launch Whisper Squadron, Alina commanded. Aisha felt the neural link flare as her fighter launched from its carrier. Through the Quillary hive mind, she perceived her squadron not as separate vessels, but as extensions of a single consciousness. Her consciousness, temporarily expanded beyond human limits. Execute attack pattern Theta 9, she ordered. 37 fighters moved in perfect synchronization, their movements too complex and coordinated for conventional pilots to achieve. They struck the lead Harvester vessel from multiple vectors simultaneously, ways as spare disruptors firing in precisely coordinated sequence. The quantum entanglement beams penetrated the Harvester's biomechanical hull, disrupting the neural network that bound the collective consciousness together. For the first time in recorded history, a Harvester ship faltered. Its segments lost coordination, rippling with chaotic, contradictory movements. It's working, Chen exclaimed. All ships, converge on the compromised target. Elena ordered. The Coalition fleet struck with everything they had. Neph organic torpedoes that adapted to hull composition, Ventari crystal beam weapons, human nuclear warheads, Chixari phase disruptors. The wounded harvester ship convulsed, its segments tearing apart as internal systems turned against each other. And then, impossibly, it exploded. A silent, devastating eruption that temporarily outshone Trappist's sun. "Target destroyed," reported Chen, disbelief evident in his voice. "Confirmed destruction of Harvester capital ship." The Coalition command deck erupted in cheers, immediately silenced as the remaining Harvester vessels accelerated toward the Coalition fleet. They moved differently now, their segments reconfiguring into defensive formations. "They're adapting," warned Meta from his science station. "The neural disruption won't work the same way twice." The battle that followed would later be called the Miracle at Trappist. 3 Harvester vessels destroyed, at the cost of 64 Coalition ships and nearly 2,000 lives. As the surviving forces regrouped, Elena received an unexpected transmission from the Khazrath Empire. "We have observed your engagement," stated the Khazrath war commander. "Your victory was unanticipated." Elena stared at the alien face, allowing herself one moment of grim satisfaction. "This is just the beginning," she promised. "The Tellurians want to negotiate." Maya Rodriguez's scared face twisted into a sneer. Once captain of the Shadow Dancer, now confined to a hover chair after her narrow escape from Silvery space, she still maintained her fierce intensity. "Tell them to go to hell." 4 months of brutal combat had transformed the Coalition command center on Titan. Holographic displays showed dozens of battles raging across the abandoned territories. Some showed Coalition victories, hard-won and costly. Others showed only spreading darkness as Harvester forces consumed entire systems. "We've lost contact with New Ganymede," reported Admiral Chen, adding another red marker to the tactical display. "That's 17 colonies gone in the past week alone." The door hissed open, admitting Dr. Jackson. The xenolinguist's clothes were rumpled, his eyes bloodshot from days spent analyzing Harvester communication patterns. "The Tellurian representative is waiting in the comms chamber. They say it's urgent." Elena looked around the War Council, representatives of species who had been abandoned to die, now fighting with a ferocity that had shocked the galaxy. "Opinions. They abandoned us," Maya spat. "Now they want to talk because their precious economic models show the Harvesters reaching their core world sooner than projected." "We need their technology," countered Dr. Mehta. The quantum physicist had aged years in months, his hands trembling from stimulant overuse as he worked to improve the Wehisphere disruptors. "Our weapons are becoming less effective with each engagement. The Harvesters adapt too quickly." Elena nodded grimly. "Let's hear them out." The Tellurian High Executor appeared on the holographic display, tall, elegant, with the characteristic silver skin of his species. "Commander Reyes, your Coalition's resistance has been noted." "You mean we haven't died quietly enough for your comfort?" Elena replied. The Tellurian's expression didn't change. "Our predictive models indicate the Harvester's consumption rate of outer territories will penetrate our defensive perimeter 47% faster than initially calculated. This is concerning." "Tragic," Elena said flatly. "We are prepared to offer limited assistance. Access to our shield modulation technology, improved weapons systems, technical advisors." Maya slammed her fist on the console. "You want us to continue dying for you, just with better equipment." "We offer what we can," the Tellurian responded coldly. "We cannot spare ships or troops. Our own defenses require. Your own survival is your priority." Elena interrupted. "We understand. Here are our terms. We accept your technology, but no Tellurian advisors, no Empire oversight of Coalition forces. We fight our way, not yours." The Tellurian frowned. "Unacceptable. Our technologies require proper implementation protocols." "Then keep them," Elena said, reaching for the disconnect. Wait. For the first time, the Tellurian showed emotion. Your terms can be accommodated. Within weeks, coalition ships were retrofitted with advanced Tellurian shields and weapons. The effects were immediate. Casualty rates dropped. Harvester kills increased. With their improved capabilities, Alina implemented Operation Firebreak, a complex series of coordinated attacks designed to channel the Harvester fleet toward uninhabited systems where gravity traps awaited. It's working, Chen reported from the tactical station. The Southern Harvester contingent is diverting exactly as predicted. The command staff watched as Harvester vessels adjusted course, avoiding coalition strongpoints and moving toward what appeared to be vulnerable systems, directly into the planned killing zones. Then, abruptly, the main Harvester fleet changed vector. Not toward the traps. Not toward the remaining colonies. Toward Sol. They can't know, Meta whispered. We've kept the location of our command center secure. They know, Alina said with cold certainty. And they're making a statement. She activated the galaxy-wide emergency broadcast system, a channel normally reserved for the Empire's use. Her message would reach every inhabited world. To all empires who abandoned us, we will hold the line here, not for your sake, but for all sentient life. Judge us not by our technology or history, but by our resolve. The Harvesters come for Earth. We will not yield. As she ended the transmission, reports flooded in of Empire vessels mobilizing, not retreating further, but moving toward the conflict. The 5 empires, watching the Harvester fleet converge on Sol system, finally understood their miscalculation. Humanity and their coalition weren't sacrificial pawns. They were the only species willing to face extinction rather than submit. Harvester Vanguard entering Kuiper Belt. All units report ready status. Elena stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, now upgraded with Tellurian shield technology and bristling with Wehe spear disruptors. Earth's orbital defenses bloomed on the tactical display, a desperate last line between humanity's cradle and extinction. Civilian evacuation at 92% completion, reported Admiral Chen. Underground shelters at capacity. Coalition worlds standing by to receive remaining transports. The combined Harvester fleet had arrived at the edge of Sol system, a swarm of segmented leviathans moving with predatory grace. Earth's orbital defenses had been reinforced by ships from every coalition species. The final defensive line was drawn at the asteroid belt, 1,000 vessels of 17 species united in desperation. Kulari hive ships reporting neural link established with human squadrons. Lieutenant Sharma announced from her new position as Fleet Integration Officer. Ventari gravity weapons primed in Mars orbit. Neph bioswarms deployed around Jupiter's moons. Elena surveyed the assembled forces, the last, best hope for not just humanity, but all the primitive species deemed unworthy of salvation. This is Commander Rice to all coalition vessels. You know what we face. You know the odds. But remember this, the empires called us primitive, yet here we stand, defending not just our own worlds but theirs too. Whatever happens today, we've already proven them wrong. The first Harvester ships breached the outer defense perimeter, immediately met by waves of autonomous drones. The battle for Sol had begun. For 3 days, the coalition forces fought with desperate valor. Whisper disruptors proved effective, but required ships to get dangerously close to the massive Harvester vessels. The Ventari flagship Crystalline Resolve was destroyed protecting Earth's moon base, its gravity weapons taking 2 Harvester capital ships with it. The Kulari hive ships sustained massive losses disrupting Harvester communications. On the 4th day, Alina's command staff gathered on the Defiance Bridge, exhaustion evident in every face. Status report, she demanded, ignoring the bleeding gash across her forehead from when a console had exploded during the last attack. We've lost 40% of our fleet, Chen reported grimly. Half of Earth's orbital infrastructure is gone. The Harvester fleet has been reduced by approximately 1/3, but they continue to press forward. Our models show Total defense failure within 72 hours. Maya Rodriguez, operating tactical analysis from her hover chair, looked up from her console. There's something else. We're detecting unusual activity at the heliopause. Multiple gravitational anomalies. Harvester reinforcements. Elena asked, dread settling in her stomach. Unknown. The signature doesn't match. Maya froze, her eyes widening. Commander, we're detecting Khazrath warp signatures. The bridge fell silent. Confirmed, whispered the sensor officer. Khazrath battle cruisers entering the system. At least 20 capital ships. They're engaging the Harvester rear guard. Before anyone could respond, another alert sounded. New contacts. Meyer collective bioships detected near Saturn. They're launching interceptors. Then a third alert. Vex Dominion World Eaters dephasing directly in the Harvester formation. One by one, ships from the empires that had abandoned them arrived. Not in token numbers, but in force. Only the Silveri remained conspicuously absent. The combined might of the coalition and 3 empires pushed back the Harvester advance. As the enemy began to retreat from the system, the Khazrath Supreme Commander requested to board the Defiant. Standing before Elena, the massive insectoid warrior lowered his head in a gesture of profound respect. We were wrong to abandon you, the commander admitted, mandibles clicking softly. Your species lacks our technology and history, but you possess a quality we had forgotten. The will to fight against impossible odds, not just for yourselves, but for all life. Elena studied the commander, her expression unreadable. And the Silveri. They will answer for their absence, the Khazrath replied. The conclave is changing. Outside the viewport, Earth still turned, battered but unbroken. 3 years after the Battle of Sol, Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Earth's rebuilt orbital station. Beyond the reinforced viewport, construction drones swarmed around the framework of the Concordat headquarters, the new seat of galactic governance. Admiral Reyes, a voice called from behind her. The delegates are assembled. Elena turned to find Lieutenant, now Captain, Sharma waiting respectfully. The Neuralink implants at her temples were now elegant silver instead of the crude prototypes from the war. Thank you, Captain. Is everyone here? Yes, Mom. Representatives from all 53 member species. Even the Silveri sent their high conciliator. Elena allowed herself a small smile. The Silveri had paid dearly for their absence during the Battle of Sol. Their once dominant position in galactic politics had been reduced to near irrelevance. They're learning humility. That's something, at least. The galactic Concordat chamber hummed with the murmur of dozens of species, the former primitives, given equal standing with the ancient powers. The rigid hierarchy of the 5 empires had been replaced by a new order, one born from the desperate alliance that had saved not just Earth, but potentially all sentient life. The Harvesters had been driven back to the void between galaxies. Intelligence suggested they would return, perhaps in decades, perhaps in centuries. But the galaxy would be ready when they did. Elena took her place at the podium, surveying the assembled delegates. Catal of the Ventari, now Grand Crystalline Architect. The Quillari Hive Speaker, whose consciousness spanned 17 worlds. Representatives from the Khazrath, Meyer Collective, and Vex Dominion. Humbled by humanity's stand, yet still powerful. And between them all, the 17 species of the original coalition, no longer abandoned, no longer primitive. 3 years ago, Elena began, we faced extinction. Not just humanity, but all so-called primitive species deemed unworthy of protection. The empires calculated our worth and found us wanting. They drew their defensive line and left us outside it. She paused, making eye contact with the Silveri High Conciliator, who had the grace to lower his crystalline gaze. But in that moment of abandonment, we found something the galaxy had forgotten. Not superior technology, not ancient wisdom, but the courage to stand together when retreat seemed rational. The will to fight not just for ourselves, but for all who share this galaxy. Elena gestured to the view outside, where Earth turns serenely below. Today we formalize what began in desperation: the Vanguard Force, a combined fleet drawn from all Concordat species, a first line of defense, not just for the powerful, but for every world, every species, every future civilization that might arise. From across the chamber, the Kizrath Supreme Commander rose. The Empire species once thought power flowed from age and technology alone. Humanity taught us that innovation born from necessity can overcome even the most ancient foe. The Kizrath people pledge our battle fleets to the Vanguard. One by one, representatives from every species made similar pledges: resources, ships, technologies freely shared. As the ceremony concluded, a new monument was unveiled outside the chamber, a memorial listing every species that stood with humanity in their darkest hour, with space left for those yet to join their community of worlds. The inscription read, "The stars belong to those with the courage to defend them, together." Later, alone on the observation deck, Elena stared out at the stars. The same stars the empires had once deemed her species too primitive to deserve. Was it worth it? Asked Dr. Jackson, joining her at the viewport. All the sacrifice. Elena thought of Maya Rodriguez, of the Shadow Dancer's crew, of the billions lost across 17 species who had chosen to fight rather than accept extinction. "Ask me again in 1,000 years," she replied, "when the harvesters return and find not divided empires, but a galaxy united and waiting for them." Above them, the first ships of the new Vanguard fleet began their patrol of the galactic rim, sentinels against the darkness between the stars.